96 national football federations, 2 entire confederations, a formal boycott vote, and a senior FIFA advisor who just quit in protest. That's where Gianni Infantino's $20 billion plan to sell a piece of the World Cup now stands, and it happened faster than almost anyone expected. UEFA, all 55 of its member nations, didn't just criticize this plan, they voted, formally, to boycott the World Cup and every other FIFA competition if it goes ahead. CONCACAF's 41 members rejected it too. That's 96 national federations, closing in on half of FIFA's entire membership, standing against the very organization they belong to. If you watched our last video on this, you know the FFE plan, that's FIFA Forward Enterprise, has been building toward a real confrontation since it leaked. This is the moment that confrontation became official. Today, the boycott vote itself, CONCACAF and the AFC's positions, the resignation that shocked FIFA's own inner circle, and FIFA's defiant response to all of it. Quick recap for anyone just catching up, because the numbers here matter for understanding why the reaction has been this intense. Infantino's plan, revealed this week, would spin off FIFA's commercial operations, broadcast deals, sponsorship, the running of the men's and women's World Cups into a new company called FIFA Forward Enterprise, valued at $20 billion. 20% of that new entity would be sold to private investors, with the core investor identified as a New York investment firm founded by Joshua Kushner, the brother of Jared Kushner, who is married to Ivanka Trump, making him a son-in-law of President Trump. Infantino wrote directly to FIFA's 211 member associations laying out the financial pitch. Right now, each federation has promised roughly $10 million in basic FIFA funding over 4 years. Under FFE, Infantino said that would double to $20 million for the next 4-year cycle, and he projected that by 2038, total funding per federation could reach $86 million, compared to roughly $36 million under the current structure. There's a catch attached to that money, and it's the detail that's made federations the angriest. Federations were told in a 5-page letter that the initial $20 million payment would only be available starting January 1, 2027, but only if they respond positively by Infantino's deadline of September 19th. Miss that date, and you get a smaller amount instead. That's the plan. Now, let's talk about what actually happened when it hit federations' desks. And FIFA's response? A statement insisting nobody is selling football, while simultaneously confirming they plan to press ahead with the exact process everyone just rejected. This is no longer a controversy. This is the closest thing football has seen to an actual institutional civil war in decades. Let's break down exactly how we got here, who said what, and whether this plan can possibly survive. UEFA didn't just release a strongly worded statement this time. They convened an urgent online meeting of all 55 member nations, and at the end of it, they agreed, formally, as a bloc, to boycott the World Cup and every other FIFA competition if this plan moves forward. UEFA's statement was unambiguous. Their national associations will not participate in FIFA competitions. Their language framed this as a matter of principle rather than negotiation, stating plainly that some things are simply too important to sell and that the World Cup belongs to football. Vice President Laura McAllister went further in her personal comments, accusing FIFA of committing what she called a form of blackmail through the September 19th deadline structure. The idea being that offering federations a shrinking payout the longer they wait isn't really consultation, it's financial pressure dressed up as an opportunity. To understand how serious a boycott threat actually is here, you need the practical stakes. The very next FIFA tournament on the calendar is only weeks away, the Women's Under-20 World Cup, hosted by Poland starting September 5th. And looking further ahead, the 4 British football associations together make up FIFA's only current bidder to host the 2035 Women's World Cup, with that hosting decision due November 23rd. A genuine UEFA boycott doesn't just threaten this specific plan, it puts real scheduled FIFA events at risk within days, and puts a major future hosting bid in serious jeopardy too. This is UEFA speaking with total unity. 55 separate national federations with wildly different domestic politics and priorities agreeing on the same boycott position in a single emergency meeting. That level of consensus doesn't happen over a minor disagreement. If UEFA's opposition was expected, CONCACAF's rejection is the twist nobody fully saw coming. CONCACAF, representing 41 member federations across North America, Central America, and the Caribbean, including Canada, met on July 30th and issued their own statement formally rejecting the FFE proposal, calling for greater transparency and proper governance. Here's what makes this genuinely surprising. CONCACAF President Victor Montagliani has long been considered one of Infantino's closest allies within FIFA's power structure and has been widely seen as a leading candidate to eventually succeed him. If anyone was expected to fall in line with Infantino's plan, conventional wisdom said it would be Montagliani's confederation. Instead, CONCACAF's statement pointedly noted that its members hadn't actually been consulted before the plan was announced, and rather than simply rejecting FFE outright, they took a sharper angle. CONCACAF tasked its FIFA Council members with pushing FIFA to explain how its existing massive CAF reserves could instead be used to boost football development funding directly without needing outside private investment at all. In plain terms, CONCACAF's position is, you already have the money. Why do you need to sell part of the World Cup to get more? The U.S. Soccer Federation backed that position directly, releasing its own statement saying it stands with CONCACAF and its members. Combine UEFA's 55 members with CONCACAF's 41 members, and you get the number that's now defining this entire story. 96 national football federations across 2 entire confederations publicly rejecting FIFA's plan. FIFA has 211 members total. That means close to half of the entire organization has now said no. If this breakdown is giving you the real numbers and stakes instead of just outrage, hit like. It genuinely helps. And tell me in the comments, do you think this boycott threat actually holds if push comes to shove? Or does September 19th's deadline start peeling federations away with cash the same way we saw with Czech FA President David Trunda earlier? I'll be reading through. It's not just UEFA and CONCACAF. The Asian Football Confederation weighed in too, and its language was some of the most pointed of any confederation so far. AFC President Sheikh Salman bin Ibrahim Al Khalifa, himself long seen as a staunch Infantino ally, sent a letter to member federations warning that FIFA's unilateral actions appear to undermine the very foundations of continental football, and cautioned that the plan could put the AFC's own competitions at risk. The AFC's formal statement went further, arguing that, given the clear positions from UEFA and CONCACAF and what it called unprecedented divisions across the football world, FIE simply cannot realistically achieve the broad consensus needed to move forward. The statement added something that reads almost like a direct rebuke of Infantino's process, that FIFA must undertake an urgent review of its own governance and decision-making framework. When 2 confederation presidents who are personally considered close allies of Infantino, Montagliani at CONCACAF and Salman at the AFC, are both publicly pushing back this hard, that tells you this isn't a simple Europe versus Infantino political fight. This is turning into something closer to a genuine institutional consensus against the plan, cutting across the alliances that usually protect FIFA's leadership. And then came a resignation that added a completely different kind of credibility to the backlash. Carlos Cordero, a senior FIFA advisor, former U.S. soccer president, and someone who represented FIFA on the White House task force for this very World Cup, resigned in protest of Infantino's plan. This isn't an outside critic. This is someone who was inside FIFA's own structure, working directly on U.S. government-facing World Cup matters, choosing to walk away specifically because of FIE. That kind of resignation is very hard for FIFA to spin as simple political noise from rivals. Facing all of this, FIFA didn't back down. They issued a statement defending the plan, insisting that FIFA's commercial activities would remain unchanged, that FIE would not be established in the way critics describe, and stating flatly, nobody is selling football. Their words were, "This is not something FIFA would ever entertain." Read that carefully, though, because there's a real tension in FIFA's own messaging. In the same statement, FIFA said the plan's consultation process had been disrupted by what they called incorrect media reports, and confirmed they intend to proceed with that consultation process so federations can vote on it based on facts. So, FIFA's actual position seems to be the criticism is based on misunderstanding, but we're still going to hold the vote on the plan everyone is criticizing. That's not really a retreat, it's a defense of the process while insisting the outcome people are afraid of wouldn't actually happen. Whether federations trust that distinction, especially after everything else that's happened around Infantino and Trump this year, is very much an open question. Step back and look at what's actually happening here structurally. FIFA is legally a Swiss-based non-profit association, and its 211 member federations are technically its collective owners. What we're watching right now is a genuine test of whether that ownership means anything in practice, whether federations can actually push back against the plan pushed by FIFA's own president, or whether Infantino's institutional control is strong enough to push it through regardless. This also isn't happening in isolation. This is the same Infantino already facing a formal document request from the U.S. House Judiciary Committee over his relationship with the Trump administration, tied to the Balogun red card reversal earlier this tournament. Now there's a Kushner-linked investment firm at the center of a $20 billion plan to restructure FIFA's commercial core. Congress, European lawmakers, UEFA, CONCACAF, and now the AFC are all separately raising versions of the same underlying question. How much influence does the Trump family's orbit actually have inside FIFA's decision-making right now? Watch three things closely. First, whether FIFA actually holds the vote it says it will, and whether that consultation process gives federations real input, or just a formality before pushing FIE through anyway. Second, whether the September 19th deadline starts cracking the 96-nation opposition the way it already worked on the Czech Football Association. Money has a way of testing solidarity over time. Third, whether any more insiders follow Carlos Cordero's lead and resign, since that's historically one of the clearest signals of how bad things actually are inside an organization under this kind of pressure. So here's where this stands. 96 national federations across 2 confederations have formally rejected FIFA's plan. UEFA has voted to boycott. The AFC is warning of irreparable division. A senior FIFA advisor has resigned in protest. And FIFA's response is to insist nobody is selling football while pushing ahead with the vote anyway. Let me know in the comments, does this plan survive past September 19th, or does Infantino actually have to pull it? Subscribe if you want the follow-up the moment there's real movement, because at this pace, there will be.